Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
Hey guys, welcome to another Note to File Live. Sticky Notes, I guess is what we're still calling them, right? Today's June 25th. Today is International Catfish Day.
Are catfish international? Like, what's the reach of the catfish?
There's catfish all over the place, right?
I don't know.
You guys eat a lot of catfish in Wisconsin?
We don't. Oh, so we have catfish. I've eaten catfish before, but I feel like that's much more of like a southern thing. We do like the walleye, the perch, like the lake fish fries type of deal, but not really. I mean, it's like blackened catfish. Is that what you do? What do you do?
Yeah, mostly fried. We do and also there used to be a documentary called Okie Noodlin', and noodling is like a way that people catch catfish. So you basically venture out into the water. You are walking around in the water, and you find the holes, and you stick your holes in the riverbed.
Okay.
And you stick your hand in it, and a catfish bites your hand, and then you pull it up, and it's called noodling.
Okay,
it's
so
an Oklahoma tradition.
I have a lot of questions. Do catfish live in holes? Is this like a known thing?
Yeah, I guess it's not even like holes. It's just sort of like bedded down areas where they've gotten down inside. Yeah, or like crevices. Like anywhere where they're chilling. There's
like a little hidey holes type of deal. It doesn't hurt. Like they don't have teeth, right?
They do sort of. I mean, they don't have sharp teeth. They're ridged.
Okay, so not like a northern pike or a muskie.
Little ridges. The parts of catfish that hurt are they're no, yeah, nothing like that. But they have these fins with spikes on them, and they hurt real bad. If you catch, I've never noodled, but I've caught catfish, and if you get them, if they stick you, it's you're gonna be in pain for a little while.
So we do that with crappie and that type of thing, or bluegill. You got to kind of get their spines down on the back, or else they will cut you.
Yeah, this is different though. There's some kind of I don't know if it's not poison, but I think there's some kind of something going on when they stick you and you burn for a while. It's not ideal.
Huh. And so that was my third question was, have you ever noodled? But no,
I've not. I ain't down for that, man. I love to fish. I'll fish with a fishing pole. I'll get into the water, but I ain't sticking my hand into a hole that I don't know what's in there.
I guess it would depend on what other types of because I was thinking of snapping turtles. We at the pond by my house, there's a playground by it, and there's apparently massive amounts of snapping turtles that are climbing out of the pond and laying them in the wood chips, which seems questionable given that lots of small children are playing there, but it's a thing. But yeah, you're sticking your hand. Well, I was fishing with my kids with hot dogs because, long story, and then we discovered that snapping turtles love hot dogs. But I imagine that because they're shaped like fingers, like little worms. I can imagine his name is Hot Dog now. If you ask my kids, there's a snapping turtle. It's a he. It's not because it was laying eggs. That's another story. But it's named Hot Dog. But if you're sticking your hand into a hole, and what if there's a snapping turtle in there?
I mean, turtles love things that are finger shaped. That's a scientific fact. So I don't know. This is already way too much talk about catfish for sure. So
see, when you said catfish, I'm going to continue the conversation. This is where we're going. Where a little catfishing, the MTV show. And I was the other thing. I was maybe is that the type of catfishing they're talking about?
I mean, it could be, but it's not. It was literally a picture of a catfish. But maybe there's a day for that too. And when that day comes, we'll cover catfishing in depth.
Perfect.
Deal. Otherwise, I feel like it's sort of, it's never not conference season in clinical research, I feel like. But I feel like there's been a bunch lately and a lot coming up. I think you are at one now. Or
Yeah,
finishing up
this
at
is
one?
my house. This is my house in the back. Yeah, no, I was at
Right.
AACI this week in Chicago. But
What
I do
is
think, I mean,
that?
AACI, American Association of Cancer Institutes. So it's all of the NCI designated cancer folks. There's 2 conferences every year. One is the more scientific focused, so focusing on the actual like science of the research being done. This is CCAF, which is Cancer Center Administrators Forum, I believe. I don't know. We have too many fucking acronyms, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it's
There's a
all
lot.
administrative directors and like the operations and administration of the cancer centers. So you're looking at a big representation of all the NCI designated cancer centers coming to Chicago, which is interesting because ASCO was also in Chicago a couple weeks ago, another major oncology conference as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were there too. But yeah, I was at AACI this week.
And
Still
like you
am
were saying,
technically.
like there was DIA, I think bio recently as well, for the last, like just within the last month.
Mm-hmm. I feel like July slows down maybe a little bit, but then it picks up. July and August maybe slow down a little bit, but then it really picks up. And yes,
Yeah,
my
like the end of the
internet's
year
not
seems
as
to be
good because
heavy,
I'm in a
heavy
hotel.
on.
So you're going to have some lag, I think
Jeez.
is what's happening. Sorry.
Oh, goodness gracious, I can't believe it.
But yeah, because then you
So
have...
I mean, I've never heard of or been to that one before. What was what's
Yeah, I mean, which would make
what's up with it?
sense, right? Because you're not an NCI designated cancer center, so, or
Thank
a wannabe
goodness.
cancer center. It was interesting. So I've been to this one a couple of times over the years. It's always here. It's always in like Rosemont. Technically, they're not Chicago. Don't everyone get excited about being in downtown Chicago. It's in Rosemont, which is like I'm at O'Hare. I'm at the O'Hare Airport.
Gotcha.
But basically, it's interesting. I feel like it's the same conference, and I haven't been for like 5 years. And I feel it's the same conference it was. Like it's the same folks generally, right? Like a lot of the same people you're seeing, and it's a lot of the same like challenges and issues that they're talking about, which is interesting, which is great. Like we could solve some of those problems, but like clearly we haven't. And then the solutions that are being talked about are a lot of like, we hired a team of people to do this, or we added new processes, and it's like, have we not fixed the root of the problem? Like, how do we better communicate between sites and sponsors, or how do we make things more efficient? And it's just interesting to me that we haven't actually managed to make any meaningful progress, and we keep having these same conferences.
Yeah, it's hard, right? I mean, I guess you can debate like what the point of a conference is. I mean, it feels like it's mostly business versus, industry problem solving. I mean, I guess hopefully the idea is that, vendors or businesses that you're working with are helping you solve those problems, but we're not really doing that very collaboratively, like as a whole.
Well, and it's interesting because I think this one is very limited from a business perspective. So I was saying I'm coming in from a vendor perspective here, but there were like 13 exhibitors. Like it's not like a massive Vive health,
it's not
even
DIA
scope DIA
yeah.
feel, right? Like there's a couple of vendors, and the focus is really on like there's a poster board. So like, you go to those conferences and there's poster board sessions where you have like people are showing their research. This is the conference and the other AACI one where like people spend like, there's like a session break and that it's full. Everyone's looking at them, and then they present them at the end of the conference. Like people are really interested in the content and the meat of it.
Yeah.
So it feels a lot less businessy, because it really is just like peers coming together. And then there's vendors obviously there as well, but it's very focused on like the cancer centers want to talk to each other. They're not there to talk to vendors.
Yeah. Do they tend to be more like, to your point, like is it more science focused versus like operational? Or I guess I assume must be a big operational component. Like,
yeah, and the posters are on like it's almost research on their operations. So they're looking at like activation timelines and like different metrics, and like they're showcasing their solutions for how they fixed some of the like administrative components of it. So like study activation was a piece of it. Study amendments was another topic they talked about. Obviously with oncology, you're also going to have the CCSG, data table reporting. So they talked about some of that stuff, but it's like, how do you optimize the administration of the research specific to cancer centers? But there's a lot of things that could be like gleaned across the board.
Yeah, you would think so.
But it was fascinating. You go in and you look at these poster boards and you're like, you said like, I started a team and a process and we use Excel or Smartsheet or, BI business, like a business BI tool. And it's like all of these disparate things, but it's like, so clearly what's like being held together with duct tape. It's like, so even like the best solutions that are being like touted as like, this is a major improvement we had, is still something that's like, that's wild to me.
Well, and it sounds like, a lot of that stuff is not, it's not industry specific software that's solving a problem. It's piecing, and I do this too. Like we piece together other commercially available products to sort of wedge into what we do.
Like Asana or Excel or like, one of that talked about, I went to a session that was about trial activation, and like they started like a team that like helped and like walked through the process, and people like, what tools do you use? And it's like, we have this massive like 26 tab spreadsheet and it moves from tab to tab. It was interesting though, because I was having a conversation with someone about this. It's like, why are you using some of these tools? And it struck me that organizations like these massive cancer centers who are part of these large organizations, and organizations like yours, which are small independent sites, are almost facing similar problems for very different reasons. Where I was talking about, like, why are you doing this? And like, we know there's some tools out there. We could kind of optimize what we're doing, but we can't do it. My IT team needs to do it.
Yeah.
And there's such a bottleneck that they're like, well, I can do Excel, so I just use Excel, because to actually do something gets like jammed up in this like bottleneck of their IT department. Whereas you don't have that bottleneck, you just don't have the department, but the result is the same.
Yeah, I know, that's interesting and true. But I also think, again, it kind of speaks to the fact that like we're still missing some like basic, tech or platforms or solutions that like we have to go elsewhere, and like, I'll be honest, like I've been working with someone, and we'll talk about this maybe on a later podcast, like on some of the finance stuff we do. And like, frankly, I've used different things, but the most impressive thing he's put together is a series of fucking spreadsheets. And like, I hate it, but also it gets the job done. It's not ideal, and you're certainly missing a lot from doing things that way, but it's sort of like the quickest way is the simplest sometimes,
Well, but I also think that is a very, and I do this on like my side of things too. Instead of going for like a built for purpose system, I'll use shit like that too. But it's faster at the onset, but long term, you're not doing yourself any favors. Like you can't, the report's out. It's not super scalable. So like, yes, it's shorter now. It's like giving your kid a fucking marshmallow. Like, you want 1 marshmallow now or 5 marshmallows if you wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Same concept. Whereas yes, it's easy now, but like it's gonna cause problems down term. So it's almost like a short-sighted way to do things. You want both? Oh yeah.
I want it now and 5 in 5 minutes. So
okay, yeah, okay. Or I want 5 now.
Yeah,
that's what I want. But I think to your point, like I think it is because a lot of the systems that are currently out there are archaic and they haven't had to change, right? So it's like, because people have, I'll take this to a different area as well, but it's the concept of like people held it together themselves. They've made workarounds, they've found other systems to augment. And so like the true gaps haven't been felt as much, because it's like, oh, well, we're still able to get what we want because we're augmenting our primary systems with Excel, with additional people, with whatever. And so like the people who are making the purchasing decisions aren't feeling it because they don't have to. And I think that's the same thing where it's like, if you're in a work function and you're covering for someone who sucks at their job, ultimately that is going to continue because you're fixing the solution. It's not good for you. It sucks. But there's not like the need hasn't been felt, versus if you step back and you say, this is a need that needs to be filled, and you constantly talk about it as opposed to just doing it yourself, that's when it's going to be fixed.
Yeah, but then complainer and you're a hater and you're just, you're not bringing solutions to the table, people don't
Fuck
like
that.
that.
I'm a hole poker.
People don't like that though. Well, I mean, look, other industries run their businesses like with tools, right? And it's probably not that much different. Like,
So
like
why?
as a
Then why don't
site,
we?
I don't know. Or is it everything like this? That's what I wonder sometimes. Like, am I a moron, or is there something actually unique about it, or is just everybody doing the best they can with the stuff that's out there? And I don't know. I literally don't
That's an interesting.
know
I
enough.
hadn't thought about it, but it made me think of like when you're a kid, you think your parent has like all the ideas and they're doing very purposeful and like this is their plan and this is how they're raising you. And then you started a new job and you're like, yeah, I'm sure the leadership team knows exactly what they're doing. I'm sure this is a thought through cognitive plan. And then you have a kid and you're like, oh God, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Did my parents actually know what they were doing? And then you get into a leadership role and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Does no one know what they're doing? And I kind of think it's just it's the latter. No one knows what the fuck they're doing. Everyone's kind of making it up as they go along.
I believe that more and more the more people I talk to, and it sounds worse than it is, but like I do think everybody's just kind of winging it and putting it together the best they can.
Well,
that's okay.
To your point, that's not a problem. It's just funny that like the perception has changed, and so like similar to this is the perception on the outside that like other industries have it together because what we're seeing, they're operating, they're functioning. We're not seeing how the sausage is made. We're just seeing the sausage, right?
Yeah, we
like,
only see the way our own sausage is made. But even then, it's like I don't know. And in some ways, it does sort of separate, I think, people from one another in a way that like, look, can you figure out how to get it done? You know what? The perfect solution doesn't exist, but can you grind through and like weave together something that does make sense and it works? And then I think that's a little bit of that's the barrier, right? Like between being able to be successful and not.
Yes, but I do also think like that can't always be the solution because then we would never have new innovation, right? Like in any new technology space, like you need to sometimes step back and like fix the problem. You can't just be like, well, this is what it is and it sucks. And it's a balance. Like,
yeah, of course,
100% it's a balance.
You're going to
right?
fix everything, yeah.
Right, and you're not going to make a perfect solution for all the things that solve the problems, but I think it is, and I think it probably needs to just be something that's continually looked at and thought in new eyes too, right? Like people coming in with different perspectives from different companies or backgrounds and stuff to say like applying just novel thought processes, and sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it won't, but not necessarily bad and all around.
Yeah, we'll see. And again, I'm sure dozens more conferences will figure it out in time for sure.
Yep. We'll check back in about 10 years and we'll see if AACI is the same. But yeah, next, I don't know. I don't actually have another conference till September, I think. I think we're going to hit sort of a little bit of a lull, although there are certainly ones coming up, and I know there's travel for other work-related things too. But next one I have is the Viva Summit in September.
Oh, nice.
A little bit of that one, and then after that, I think it's Scope Global, then Innovation Network Gathering. I don't know. There's a couple out there.
Yeah, get your free plugs in for Viva.
Yeah, everyone actually should come to Viva. It is a summit.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
It is free for sites. They just have to get to Boston.
It's true. It's true.
So, I'm going to plug this because I'm actually kind of excited about it. We talked about like bringing together sponsors and sites to talk, and that's basically the goal of this, where it's like sites come, it's free, get in front of sponsors and tell them what they're doing, what you want. I actually think it's kind of cool. So yes, plugging it.
I do think that's the best potential way things will get better. Is just direct conversations between look, I feel like again, vendors are so happy to talk to sites. Great, but like you can't really do anything. I mean, like,
well, the goal is you like hopefully build a solution that helps. But again, I always say this too. Any vendors providing a tool, there's so much that needs to go around it for it to actually work. So they can help with the problem potentially. But yeah, although I will say there was certainly some sponsors here at AACI, and they were asking the question, like there were big sponsors, right? Who are talking like, what can we do to work with sites to make this easier? Which was interesting because like they clearly like cared and wanted to have that conversation. No, there was certainly some, like relatively decent answers about communication and primary points of contact and, complete documents and stuff, and sort of respecting sites and as, giving sites autonomy in their processes. But there was certainly some shade thrown at CROs along the way, I will say.
Yeah, maybe rightfully so. And maybe this is a nice little segue. If you were doing it on purpose, then good job. And if you weren't, then
good job.
I'll pretend like you were. But I did see, perusing Reddit, as I like to do, which I want to say I've seen a lot more people referencing Reddit on LinkedIn lately, which
you're gonna go ahead and try to take credit for that?
Like we are the forerunners for that.
We're the reason Reddit is popular. That's the one.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, that's very obvious, but
clearly
I have it sorted by new, so it doesn't tell the story exactly chronologically. I'm going to tell the story Memento style instead. My jumping around all over the place, but
that's a good movie.
That was a great movie. I haven't seen it in forever now. I feel like I got to watch it. Someone posting that they got, and first of all, like, I love that this is how they do it. Like, business update, attendance required with invitees hidden. So that's fun. And, it kind of started out, I mean, if you go to the bottom, people are like, well, maybe, I don't know. We'll see what the deal is. I got the invite to people looking for updates. And you immediately, now you start seeing people whose roles were eliminated, CDMs, RCRAs. I don't know what that means. Remote CRAs. I don't know what that could possibly mean. Refinement of the CRA role. Not a layoff. Someone saying it wasn't a layoff, although there were people whose roles were also eliminated. So interesting. Now it's this person saying retirement of the RCRA role.
Can we stop making up acronyms? Like, I feel like maybe I'm just a moron, and I'm just like, there's some acronyms where I'm like, yeah, I absolutely know what that is. And there's other ones I'm like, is this one that I'm just like a dum-dum and don't know what it is, or did someone just make up something new? I never know.
Yeah, I just started making them up myself.
Just abbreviating everything.
If you work for PPD, I'd be curious to know. I mean, you might not want to out yourself. I don't know what the rules are, but if you're watching, I'd be curious to hear some more clarity. I do think it seems like it's just been an extremely rough ride, right, for CROs lately. Like, I feel like, and I don't know, maybe it's always been this way and I have not been as acutely aware of it as I am now, but it feels like every couple of weeks we're seeing like layoff, outsource, restructure,
reduction in force.
Yeah, whatever. That's my favorite one. What's up, Steve Wimmer? Yeah, I've read too that Reddit, not so much LinkedIn, but that Reddit was like a big source for some of the, data for some of these LLMs, which I feel like could be a terrible mistake.
Well, that's, like, the LinkedIn one makes sense, but like with ChatGPT, like it will just like confirm anything you want to hear. So like a negative, and Reddit's so negative that on LinkedIn's positive.
So the one thing I love about Reddit is like and I've seen like memes around this, so I'm probably just paraphrasing a meme I saw, but like you can find somebody from like 12 years ago who had the exact same problem as you and like all the steps they did to like fix it. It feels very like perfect for niche things that you can't really find anywhere else because, it's great. Smartest part of PPD. TFS, what the fuck is that? Thermo Fisher Scientific, is that right?
Yeah, yes, yep.
Cool. Well, hopefully you're safe. I don't know, again, what the actual story is. I just, it tends to be, these Reddit posts do tend to be generally accurate. Not always, again, you take it with a grain of salt. It's an anonymous platform.
Well, and that's why stuff like this comes out, right? Because like people can't post this necessarily as publicly without blowback, especially if there's any type of like severance or anything involved. Like they don't want to risk it. So, but they can put something on Reddit, which is a little bit more anonymous. But it is, but to what you were saying though, like, we've seen this come up with CROs recently a lot, but I also am seeing like how folks are interacting with CROs is much different than it was 3 to 5 years ago too. Like we're really moving away from the full service model, probably for a number of reasons. and that's going to really hit the bottom line. So what do you do if you can't make money? You try to save money. And how do you do that? And where's your most expensive, especially at a CRO? I mean, what's the most expensive thing they're doing? It's their people, right? Like they don't have physical tech stacks or manufacturing facilities or anything like that they can play around with. Like it's the people. That's where they're going to cut. So makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I just wonder if we talked about this and we've heard other people mention it, like a shift away with, again, the growth of site networks who can handle like some of the stuff versus even like, we know sponsors like to bring things back in-house every so often. I'd love to see a world where that's the case. And I don't know what the downside of that is aside from, I mean,
it's another thing you have to manage. Like
yeah, of course.
You are diversifying what you have to, your expertise and what you're managing and paying for. And so like it's a balance of like, is this cost effective? Is the control worth it? I mean, all of that, right? Like,
I mean, you would think having that level of control over it would be better. And plus, like, there's obviously no shortage of people available who have experience doing these things because they're all being laid off. So like,
right.
It's not hard to find like people who know what the heck they're doing.
But I think this is a huge issue across all types of companies where people try to do too much, where it's like,
that's true.
Where it's like, I'm going to focus. Like I'm a tech company. I'm going to build software and I'm going to implement the software. And then you work with partners and you're like, oh, they're delivering this consulting service on the side. And you see that tangentially and you're like, oh, I want those dollars. I could do that. And so you build a consulting arm and then you're like, oh, this is another thing I could do. And you start adding on all of these things because you see the need for it. You see other people doing it. You're like, well, I could just do this. But then by the time you step back, you're doing a bunch of shit and you're probably not doing all of it really well because you've lost focus.
Yeah, though I wonder. So like, yeah, I mean, and look, I'm guilty of that, but I'm a tiny company without, billions or even millions of dollars to sort of like build something meaningful and good. And even I outsource some of the stuff we do, internally that you could just as easily bring in house and do. But I got to think at some point, like it makes sense if you're a pharma company who's making, again, literally billions of dollars, like certainly you're capable of putting together an arm or a team or a whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, they like can versus should is the conversation. Like you
well,
can
we see it.
do a lot
we
of
see
things.
It's like, again, device is a really good example. I don't know what device, and we talked about it maybe it's because device is like a product, so like it's viewed a little bit differently. But like almost most device companies we work with are doing that's their people. Like the CRA works for that device company. The budgets, contracts people are from, but also like I guess maybe they don't need to do things like site selection so much because they got reps in all of these places already. They have relationships already. But those studies, again, tend to go the best because there's no like miscommunication. There's no like who belongs to who's responsible for what. It's all
there's
the same
accountability.
Yeah.
And they're chasing they got the top, they're under the same umbrella, right? Like versus I'm just doing it for a paycheck and I don't give a fuck.
Well, I'll say this CRA we have with one that we work with, like she's been the CRA on like all 4 of the studies we've gotten. She's local. She knows all the ins and outs. It's not that if you work with most sponsors, you're going to have a different CRA for a different team for every single one, So again, it's just so many things are so much easier. It's astounding, like what the difference is.
So do you see that as like just device companies, or do you see it also in like smaller pharma companies, biotechs?
Well, this is where I think smaller biotech or smaller pharma can't do it because they don't have the money or know-how. So they'll do it, right? It's a mix with them because they may hire like a small CRO or a very niche CRO who just does, that kind of stuff. But even then, you probably have a much closer relationship with the sponsor themselves just because of the size,
the nature of it.
Yeah.
And like this is their one trial, so they're pretty fucking invested in it.
But I've seen goofy stuff, like a guy who's like people who have no business doing site selection, like because they just drew the short straw in the company doing some of these calls. And I'm like, do you know what you're asking me?
No,
it's cool. You're a nice guy, and I have no complaints about that. But like you have never done this before, but you're the one talking to sites, and you might even be the one negotiating a budget with me, and you have no idea, like.
So I'm gonna say like that happens though
Of course,
at
it's just
larger companies
startup.
too, right? Like
Maybe.
right? I mean, I don't know. Like I've seen the results of some of these site selections work that you see folks doing, and it's like you're supposed to have a whole unit and division doing site selection, and some of these like major CRO, like some of them do it really well, some of them don't. And I've seen the results, and I was like, you found like you selected a site that has 2 patients in like a 90-mile radius, like what? Just because like like it's fucking nonsense. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily solves the problem to the point like. And again, if you're not accountable, you select the site and then you roll off, and it's someone else's problem to recruit the patients. You don't give a shit. Like,
it's true. It's true. And I can't say that the guy doing it who's never done it before did a worse job than a CRO would. Yeah,
right?
True. It's true.
Interesting. I mean, we'll see. I think we're going to see a swing towards, less full service CRO services. I think it's going to go more towards like, I need this particular thing for you to do, but I'm not going to do all the things. I'm going to bring someone in-house who does site selection, who does patient engagement, who does some of the other stuff. Maybe just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to use CR for smaller things. I don't know. But to your point, like, do we think more of these larger, site networks or even like sites are taking on some of the onus of what CROs potentially are doing?
Yeah. I think, that remains to be seen. I mean, I guess we'll see. And if they can do it at enough scale for it to be worthwhile, but I think that's probably still maybe a little ways off. And even then, I think you're going to have to pick one site network if that's the case. And yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But all right, well, we're over time. I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
What do we got? We got another sticky notes next week. What do we got?
I actually was just thinking that. I haven't even looked. I feel like no. I feel like we have what is next week? What's the date? Is it July next week?
Yes.
That's not right. It is. Yeah, it's July next week. That's I don't know where this summer has gone. That's bonkers. No, we have Dan Shell coming on.
Oh yeah, that's right. So next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday at noon Central Time.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. We'll have Dan Shell on. We'll kind of talk, I
want to see who he's been digging up.
It'll be kind of a sticky note-ish style, probably, episode. And then I think, after July, we're going to shift to like a Tuesday, Thursday format. So you can be double sick of seeing us.
We can run our mouths twice as much.
I mean, that's clearly what everybody wants to see, right?
Obviously. Hearing us blather on about nonsense. But not twice a week. Tuesday, Thursday, potentially.
Yep. When it makes sense.
Cool.
All right. Anything else before we bail out?
Nah, can't believe I'll see you in July.
Yeah, it's true. It's coming. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with Dan Shell. Later, dudes. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.